calling like Blacklisted Scribbles.
I think it's...
Because that's why I just took a screenshot.
This is just a quick layout. You see that? People always ask, like, you know, where do we do our designs at, and who comes up with a lot of the drawings and stuff. And basically, it's just been, you know, me. I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I went to school for 2 years at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. By the way, this is Nubius Black and Chaos from the Blacklisted Podcast. We're going to do a little something on the video front. We can call it Scribbles. We can call it the Black Arts. Whatever you want to call it. You know, just, you know, check it out on YouTube. Let us know what you think. This is just a dry run. We're going to go through something quick. If you can pan around on my board, you can see stuff I'm into. This is a picture of Chaos and myself in our wrestling days. I made these just to give to the kids so they can have something to, you know, to take home with them when we sign autographs. Anybody can sign a piece of paper, I always thought, but not anybody was going to get an original sketch of two, you know, real life superheroes, if you will, that was in the ring. So this is what I came up with. You know, I took a lot of creative freedom with that, since we're so muscular and jacked up in this picture. But hey, when I'm drawing, I'm like God. I can make them any way I want them to look. And this is another piece of work of some original artwork I did of this battle scene in Chinatown with this character I created called the Sun Samurai, fighting this blind superhero, a total rip-off of Daredevil. I called him Blind Justice, where he has his eyes covered in a blindfold, and he's got a big gavel in his hand, and he's wearing this battle suit, and they're fighting with all the paper lanterns and fire and what have you going on, and a lot of Japanese characters are in the background. I got some other shit in here. Let's see what else I got right here. Got a picture of my grandbaby back there. I draw her all the time. I got a sketch of her in here too that I'll show you. And she knows it's her because whenever I show it to her, she breaks down and starts laughing. So this is a picture of Autumn. Of the scribbles I did. I try to do scribbles just to stay on point with my game. You know, I do these in under 5 minutes. That's a quick scribble of Autumn. I did that 2 weeks ago, and she knows it's her. So that just shows the ego. Here's a piece I'm working on now of Spider-Man fighting Incredible Hulk with the city in the background. It's not done yet, obviously, but it's just something I keep tinkering with, and eventually I'm gonna color it. A lot of people don't realize in the comic book business, there's a guy that's called a penciler who actually pencils the work. There's a guy that then takes pen and ink to his work, an inker, and he basically traces it out and adds texture and depth to the work. Then you hire a person that actually colors the work. Then there's another person that does the balloons and letters the work with the special effects with explosions or what have you, and dialogue. Me, I do all that shit. You know, since it's my stuff, I just do it all.
It's basically, so you're basically like the artist, the inker, the colorist, storyboard artist,
pretty much.
Letterer.
Now I just need a job. Behind that, I always thought it was cool to like twist genres up a bit. Like, what if they always have like detectives going out in the world, like looking for like missing children and like, you know, gumshoe work. And I always thought it would be cool. What if like the people you went to see, the investigators you went to see, were ran by a guy named Graydon Fox, and Graydon Fox in reality has 3 guys that work with him that are werewolves, so they can smell it. They're like human wolf hybrids, but act like greyhounds that actually can smell and track down missing people and bail jumpers and missing children and murderers and shit like that. And they always do it for a small fee, but to this day we don't know what that fee really is. It could be something malevolent, it could not. I haven't came up with any of that yet, so that's just another some character designs that I came up with a guy named Spot. He has a spot on his eye like my dog Brock. King, who's this big black werewolf, outlined in silver, and then there's Rex, the shit talker. So I made it a white guy, a black guy, and a Spanish guy. So nobody's left out, and they're all werewolves. So that's just something else I came up with. We also have a picture of another character I came up with called the Marauder. He's basically like my version of the vigilante fighting crime. During a riot, he's out there like taking down rioters and bad guys, and you know, martial artist type of dude. You know, fighting a good fight. Let me move that light up for you. You can probably see it on this side here.
Yeah, you can, because it was a bit of a glare.
But, you know, that's his hand. You go up a little higher. There you go. You get a good shot of that. And on my right, this is a sketch I was coming up with when I was still wrestling, of a wrestling outfit that I was going to design that I never did. I don't know, you might be able to see it. And what else we got in here? Let me move him out of the way.
The Black Panther up there?
Oh yeah, I got Black Panther up here. I sketched him out and inked and drew him out. That was a few years ago also. So can you get it? Or you? Let me see if I can bring it down for you. See, this ain't Bob Ross where I'm painting pretty trees and shit. You know, I just do this type of shit. You know, this is what I'm in with. This is what I'm down. Superheroes, monsters and shit. You know, you don't like superheroes and monsters, you ain't gonna like any of my shit, because that's all I do. And that was just a quickie. I did that in under like 6 minutes or something, of a company called Square Comics. On the Square Comics, I did a pinup for them, and this was the pinup. So what I'm gonna do today, just to show you that I'm not just faking it, that I actually do this shit. I'm gonna do a picture, a quickie, something that that I can do real quick, and you'll know it when it's recognizable. Instead of using one of my characters that you'll go like, okay, you can draw your characters because it's your shit. But, I'm gonna do a picture of everybody's favorite Batman, and I'm gonna sketch it out and draw it. Then after I draw it, I'm gonna ink it, and after I ink it, I'm gonna color it. So that's the plan anyhow. So we're gonna see how that turns out. Well, if you have any questions, Kaz, while I'm drawing, or even if you want to talk about Batman, feel free. So we're gonna start right now. So I'll just put his face and shoulders right here in this area. I already visualized where it's at and where it's gonna be. I picked Batman, because he's easy in my opinion, because he's basically in HD. And I tell that to a lot of kids that they ask me to draw Batman, and they go, how do you draw Batman? And I tell them it's in HD, and they think I'm high definition, because that's the, kids today. They know all that tech shit. Me, I just know it's HD, and here's my H. Batman is basically an H. If you look at that now, you know that's Batman. At least when I look at it, I see Batman. And I can go down to here, and then I flare out where his traps would be. And it's, again, pretty basic. Then it's right at the top of these H's, I make little triangles. So I just bring it down, and bring it down. Now where's the D at? The D is basically where his nose and his mouth would be at, and his jawline. So I always make a little sketch right here where I want the nose at, in conjunction to the ears and where his eyes are going to be. And then I flip it over. You'll see I make a D. Capital D. And that's just my guideline there. HD. Turn it back around. You see that's where his face is going to be. But it's, being that as a guideline, I can always add to it. I always like, there was an artist in Dave Mazzucchelli who worked for DC and Marvel. He always did this cool flair that I liked about his version of Batman, and I've been doing it ever since. Instead of just going straight down with it here, he would always turn it in, then go straight down. And it just made Batman look give his jaw a little more square. Because Batman, of all the superheroes in the world, he should be the square chin superhero, the stereotypical square chin superhero.
Yeah.
So you can see where the HD is incorporated at, and these lines here, I could erase them, but they're going to be inked anyhow. But the ones in the white, I'll get rid of just so it's easier to color in the flesh tone. But then for me, I always would do a half a finger up to my knuckle, so I'd know where the eyes would start. So they would start there and there. You probably won't be able to see those spots, but I always try to take it as far as these cheek parts as well. And the old school Batman always had eyes. When Bob Kane drew him, he kept the eyes like half circles, just like that. But they really lacked any, to me, they lacked any true expression. So I would always put a scowl in there and then just jazz up that eye. It's still in there somewhere, but I would just jazz it up, add some curls to it to give him a furrowed brow. Because let's face it, Batman ain't supposed to be the nicest superhero in the world, contrary to the 60s TV show, which I loved as a kid. But then I grew up, and I wanted my Batman to grow up too. And Frank Miller, he helped out a lot with that. If he's not the single most popular reason why Batman is the badass that he is today, including Alan Moore. And then instead of making this, you look at it, it's very kind of like square and bulky. You can always add little dents in here. This is where his cheeks will come in. These lines are important because then it shows that there's a person underneath this mask. I never liked the fact that even in the movies they would always say the mask was rubber. Now, if you're a multi-billionaire, Bruce Wayne, why would you fucking invest in a suit that's just rubber? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It should be some special high-tech polymer or something. At least that's what they did with. They did that with the Christian Bale story. Then you go to the middle, right down his nose, and you're already seeing Batman. At least I hope you're already seeing Batman.
Yeah.
So as far as then you go with shadow. Batman's very important. His character, the shadow. If you do the shadows wrong, no matter how well you draw the character, if the shadows is wrong, you just might as well not even draw it right anymore. Stop.
You'll be drawing Owlman instead of Batman.
Batman's mouth is basically right there, but I like to put like age lines on his sinus flaps. Mouth open just a little bit to make him look like he mean business. Dimple under his nose and his ass chin. So then, basically, that's the sketch of Batman. If I wanted to just draw a sketch of Batman, I could leave it like that. But the way I see it, I'm going to go all the way from sketch to ink it to coloring it. So when I look at it, if the light source is to my left, where my hand is, the light will be here. So shadow will fall here. I'll put an X there. Light will come here. Shadow would come here. So I would take the shadow, since light is here and his nose is 3D and it's sticking forward, this part of his nose, under this eye, would have some shadow, but the light will still reflect off the tip of his nose because his nose is blocking the light. But on the other side, all this would be shadow. And you can improvise all that, but as long as you get the basic shadows right, and I always put X's where I want to ink that out. And also to show that his chin is sticking out and he's a 3D character and not just a flat. This helps in not making the picture look so flat. You put a shadow under his neck. And I like my Batman to have his cape and his cowl connected, unlike the movies where they're two separate devices that he has on him. Then top of his head, again, if the light source is on my left, the shadow will be here. Since it's coming off of here, go down, and the Dave Mazzucchelli style would always put where the light is coming in. So all this will be black. And that's basically the sketch portion of Batman. So now I'm going to get a pen. I'm going to go over here in my pens. And we're going to color this sumbitch in. Make sure I got the right one. This is a big pen, so I'll do all the big dark ink spots. So I'm going to start with this shadow under his chin. When's the first time you got into Batman, Chaos?
First time I saw Batman was the 66 Batman, Adam West. Even though I wasn't alive when they first showed it, I seen it in syndication. So.
And you couldn't wait for that two-parter to fucking come back either. No matter, I mean, I watch it now and it still holds a special place for me, even though but it was written that way for that reason of the 60s, of everybody literally dropping acid and dropping out and having a good time. Considering Vietnam War was still fresh and all that other bullshit that was going on in the world, why not fucking tune in and tune out to watch Batman in the 60s with chicks with go-go boots on, and there was a lot of sexy women on that show too that I didn't watch it.
And it wasn't just Catwoman. It was a lot of the henchwomen.
The henchwenches. You had Zsa Zsa Gabor was on that show.
Yeah, I believe she was the Queen of Diamonds.
Right. What's her name? She ended up going to, she did Dynasty.
Joan Collins?
Joan Collins, yeah. She was the siren, where she had like a sonic voice and hypnotized men.
Yeah.
Tallulah Bankhead was in it. I mean, it was a who's who, just like now we were talking about on the Blacklisted podcast, how everybody wants to be in a Marvel movie now. That's how it was with Batman. Everybody was in a fucking Batman movie. Fucking Sammy Davis Jr. He was one of the few brothers that I seen in there.
I was gonna say, and if they weren't like the henchman or whatever, they'll always be part of the special cameo of whoever's sticking their head out the window as Batman and Robin, or climbing up, or walking across the floor
up the wall.
But as you tilt it, they're climbing up the wall.
And I always wondered, like, what are they? Is it too much weed in the room, so they got to stick their head out the window to just get some fresh air? And they always just happen to see the good citizens out there doing their daring do. No one calling the cops, because the cops in Gotham City is fucking pretty much useless.
Yeah, because technically, most of the time, the only cops you see is
when the fight's over,
Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara, and that's pretty much all you see.
And then when the fight is over, these guys come and take the bad guys away. And with these, back to the picture with the scowl, I'll make sure I try to stay away from the penciled line, and you'll see why, because I don't have a white marker to do that line. I could do it with whiteout or paint, but since this is going to be a quickie, I'll just do that, and you'll see that could be the light source of the reflection of the scowl of the bat mask, and I do that in all the wrinkles. And if you back to 60s Batman, he had his scowl painted on his fucking mask, but it wasn't really a scowl. It almost looked like he was asking a question or he was confused.
Yeah.
He had this big confused look fucking thing on his face, but it worked for that time. I mean, it was where the fanboys would call it comic book accurate. It was for its time. It was comic book accurate.
Yeah, because
even though the suit was fucking bluish purple, like the dark parts of it.
Yeah, because it wasn't really truly. I think the
Wasn't
only
black.
thing that was probably truly black
Was the car
was, well, besides the car, was the black inside the yellow
of the suit of the emblem.
of the emblem. But everything else was like a real dark blue to a deep purple. So yeah, and I'm not, and it was a lot of smoke on the water.
Yeah, shit.
When they were there.
Fucking, and the car was black. The boat was dark blue with fucking flames painted on it. It was just so wild. Fucking, what's his name? I want to say his name was Barry. We talked about him before. Who designed all those Batmobiles and
Oh yeah, I
Dukes of
believe it
Hazzard
was
cars.
Roger Barry.
Roger Barry. And he helped with a lot of those fancy cars. The Black Beauty from the Green Hornet, who also made a cameo on Batman. Who every kid in my neighborhood was cheering on Kato to whip Robin's ass, but the fight never really kicked off because, you know, just when they were ready to kick the fight off, something happened and they had to leave, or the bad guy showed up and they realized it was like, oh, we're fighting, and it's a misunderstanding. See how quick you can go through with a superhero misunderstanding after that, instead of waiting for somebody to say fucking Martha?
Yeah, but also at the same time, a little behind the scenes type of thing. Bruce Lee was not, I'm not fighting up against this guy because I know I would kill him.
Right.
They all know I can, so for me to basically get handled by Burt Ward.
Burt Ward, a fucking circus acrobat in the storyline, against a trained martial artist and bodyguard, it just would have been stupid.
Yeah, it wouldn't be credible for him. So yeah, that was the times, and and being that they were on the Batman show, it was sort of try to be under their rules, so they had that compromise. As soon as Robin and Kato were about to fight, something happened, so they never got to it.
Never got to it. So there's the scowl that I left in from the pencil marks, the highlight from the light, and we go up to here. Lay in this shadow. A lot of people, I like my Batman with real big ears. Some people like their Batman like the new costume that Affleck is wearing. That costume has real short ears, and that's okay. I mean,
yeah, because even Adam West's, they weren't exactly that long.
Shit, it's curled or something. They did something weird with those ears. They curled.
Yeah, it was.
And they were like pleated into his cowl. I remember as a kid going to the Trenton State Fair. When I was a kid, my dad took us up to there when it was actually in Trenton. And that was the first time I seen the Batmobile, and I thought it had died and went to heaven. They let me sit in the car and everything. And then to make matters even better, Adam West was there, so he was real cool. And he wasn't dressed as Batman, but we all knew who he was. And I just thought, that made a big impression. I was like, man, Batman had all the cool toys. He had the motorcycle, the boat.
Yeah, that boat, Batmobile,
helicopter,
that copter, that cycle.
Yeah, the sidecar broke off for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
So Robin can get out and get into the fucking helicopter. It was weird. It's like, okay, it can do it, but why? It never really told you why, except for that one scene. So there's the basic layout. I'm using this big pen because I don't want to change up a lot of pens, just so I can keep this video short. And I'm gonna just follow all these lines.
And speaking of that Batmobile, there are some famous people, or at least to a certain extent well-known people, who own some of the original show-driven vehicles.
Right.
That were Jerry King Lawler of WWE and Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. He has one of them, and then Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist.
He has the Keaton car, right?
He has a Batmobile as well. So yeah, I believe he has a Keaton
he has
car.
the Keaton car with the big dildo in the front of it.
Yeah.
Another badass car. And that's another thing. With Batman, his vehicles was just as much had a personality as Batman did. Like, all his cars looked cool. Like, a lot of people don't know, when Batman Forever, the Val Kilmer Batman, and they were lightening it up a bit there. But that car, when you look, next time you look at it, and you'll see when I tell you who designed it, when you look at it, you're going to go, oh, okay. Because I didn't get it until I found out who designed it, and then it makes perfect sense. H.R. Giger, the guy who designed Alien, designed that car. Because it looks, when you look at it now, when it's standing still, you see it that it has that whole biomechanical vibe to it.
Yeah.
Because you can actually see inside the car of this glowing blue light, where the hubcaps never spun, they just stayed stationary and lit up. For some fucking reason, Batman needs his hubcaps to be lit up.
Yeah.
And he's the Dark Knight detective.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for being such a Dark Knight and for trying to be in the shadows so much, pretty much just about everything he had was always lit up or very ostentatious and more of a look at me type of thing.
And that changed once Nolan created the Tumbler, which is, in my opinion, one of the baddest motherfucking cars ever in the history of the world. When we went to the convention and just was standing next to it, it looked like it was growling and moving, just standing still.
Yeah, it pretty much looked like something that, well, at least for that version of Batman would have.
Right. Street level, hardcore, and I always have thought it was cool that I seen a special on YouTube of Jay Leno test driving this thing, the stunt tumbler, and it looked like it took him damn near an hour to get into it because it's so cramped with the roll cage and shit inside of it. And I thought, okay, all right, well, he's in it. He's going to drive this thing on a track or something. He's driving this thing on regular highways and streets in California. And if you know what I'm talking about, and you look at just the design of this thing, of how big and wide it is, the way he could, which says a lot about Leno as a driver, the way he could navigate the streets with this thing with double tires in the back and that weird steering suspension in the front without hurting anybody or crushing anybody else's car, you know, like what Batman did in the movie with this thing.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. And it's so loud because the engine is so big. And it's like, sounds like it's growling even when it's in neutral. It's growling. So you definitely can't have academics sitting in the passenger seat, but you'll go deaf. Between academics yelling at you in the car running, I just realized since I got this gap here, I'm gonna put the bats. What one you like the best? The one with the yellow oval or just the plain bat?
You just do the plain bat.
All right, I'll do the plain bat. Again, an H, the magic H. H for bat.
And that was the whole thing about like at times, why would he, out of his whole black outfit, why would he all of a sudden just have a bright, shocking yellow symbol of a bat? I said, well, it's because could have set that up as the one, don't shoot at my head. Right.
That's what Frank Miller came up with.
Yeah.
That's where he wants to be shot, in the chest.
I'll be shot there because I know it's extra armor and padded, and don't shoot at my head. So yeah, it's the reason why of the bright, shocking yellow in the middle of the chest, and everything else is basically completely black.
And they never really told you why Robin was dressed in red and yellow, but the little joke was because he was a target.
Yeah, he was a target.
He was the guy that was distracting the guy with the gun with all his acrobatics in that bright red, yellow, and green costume, while Batman was sneaking up behind you and getting the drop on you and beating the piss out of you when you didn't see it coming.
Because I don't remember the issue, but I remember along the lines of the crazy costumes and stuff, there was one where Batman was dressing up in a yellow Batman outfit.
Oh, yeah, all different colors.
Pink Batman outfit.
Ironically, he was dressing like he was Prince.
Orange, and one thing was like a plaid, and he was basically pretty much doing that to take away notice that Robin was injured. So he for the time, he basically switched the roles of wearing a bright, colorful outfits to take
to distract,
to distract and take off of something else.
So through that in there. The plain black bat. The fucking bat symbol changes with every artist's interpretation of this damn character, so that's just mine. So now I'm gonna just get rid of some of these pencil marks that I don't need. I still, in my opinion, we did a podcast on Batman, and we talked about who our favorite Batman were, and so far, cinematically, I'm a Keaton guy all the way, just cinematically, because he looks like the type of guy who would actually do this shit.
Yeah. Because also at the same time, Batman is called the Great Detective. At times, Ra's al Ghul is calling him Detective instead of Batman, so on and so forth. And most of them, you would just pretty much just see in Batman be a soldier,
a fighter,
or anything else. But Batman is supposed to be known for his brains,
as well as his brawn.
So at least in it with the first iteration of it, and I'm not talking about the animated series because they showed him both duality. So at least Keaton at times was using more of his brain,
trying to figure shit out,
than his brawn, instead of just going punching people and bashing people's faces.
I'm gonna just keep punching until I get an answer.
Table. and it's pretty much like Joker said. He said, "Why do you go and start with the punching? It gets me all woozy, and I can't answer your questions." So.
And that's right. I never really thought that out all these years. You're absolutely right. Like, Batman just walks in and starts beating Joker's ass, hitting him in the head. He's like, well, you're starting with the head. Why are you going straight for the head? I also thought Keaton had a natural timbre to his voice where he didn't have to put on the quote-unquote bat voice. And so did Val Kilmer, for that matter. Val Kilmer just lowered it, the register of his voice, and that was that. And Clooney just sounded like George Clooney.
Yeah.
You know? He was the Batman trying to get laid. Now, you could color this just like this, and it'd be done, but I like to put, like, hash marks in my shit and just make it pop a little better. I get a smaller marker, and I try to do everything in one direction.
I say because just like how we've seen, it's some of them played Bruce Wayne better than they did Batman, and the others played Batman better than they would Bruce Wayne.
Yep.
I say so for me, basically, whoever actor got picked for Batman, I needed their Bruce Wayne to be more convincing than the Batman, because pretty much the Batman is just going to be the stuntman.
Plus, the suit sells the character.
Dressed up in it, so yeah, it's just going to be the punching and the fighting and everything else. But like when people, like when the whole Affleck thing went off and they said he was going to be Batman, and everybody was up in arms about it, and I basically broke it down to, I say, well,
who's he playing?
Who's he playing? I say, he's basically, I say, it's the Bruce Wayne part of it that I'm concerned about, but also I'm not concerned about. I say, because Bruce Wayne is a handsome, rich,
white guy,
white playboy. Now, I don't know 100% about Ben Affleck's life, but he's a handsome, rich, white
playboy. and he is a playboy. He wouldn't be if he's still with Erica Gardner, right?
Jennifer Garner.
Jennifer Garner.
So I basically believe that he can pull that part off
with his eyes shut.
Excellent, because he's sort of
that's who
every
he is.
Day. I think, and as far as for the physical part of it, well, that's up to the fight coordinators and the stuntmen.
And also up to Affleck an extent where if he's willing to put in the work to look the part and be that part.
Yeah.
Same with George Clooney. How hard was it him for playing Bruce Wayne? Handsome, good-looking white dude, getting all the ladies. Shit, that's George Clooney does that 5 times today already. I like the lines, by the way, just to make the character stand out a little bit.
So at that point, I never had a problem with him.
Going back to Keaton, I liked him because wearing that costume, any person wearing that Batman costume, only thing showing is his eyes, unless it's comic booky. Then you have the white lenses.
It was his eyes
and his face,
then his chin,
and the chin. They were smart enough to realize Keaton didn't have a strong chin, so they built underneath all that.
They built underneath it to basically
push that chin and square it
and
out.
Shove it, yeah. I say, but also at the same time, you got to look at the times of. I think the most recent thing he did, and it was like, oh no, not Mr. Mom. I say again.
He was typed. He was definitely hired against type, and like put it this, I believe if the internet was invented back when Keaton's Batman came out, Keaton would have never got the job. Because just regular news, it was on the Wall Street Journal, where people who are worrying about real important financial bullshitters complaining over fucking Keaton being Batman. And then he fucking blew it out of the water. Because a lot of people bitched that Batman wasn't in his own movie too long. And he wasn't. But that's the character. Batman is supposed to be seen very fleetly. And definitely not in the daytime. And in my opinion, what got Keaton that job was his eyes. Look at his eyes. There's something, no matter what character he plays, there's something menacing about his eyes.
Yeah.
He actually has these wrinkles and shit on his real face. Yeah. I mean, even when he's being funny, it looks like, I'm being funny, I'm just fucking with you. But am I just fucking with you? You know what I mean? You really can't tell.
Yeah.
He gives off that vibe that, yeah, I'm just fucking around, man. But he's the same guy that makes you go, well, I'm not turning my back on him. And in any world, real world version, or more realistic portrayal of the character, Batman should be a guy that's tormented and haunted and has some serious psychological problems. There's only somebody who's that damaged would put on this suit, knowing he could hire a bodyguard to be Batman, or give money to the police department to hire more cops to do a decent enough job fighting crime. But he's so scarred from the death of his parents that no one can do this but me. And the fact, and if it wasn't for me, my parents would be alive today. If I didn't ask to go to this movie, and if I didn't get scared in certain aspects of the iterations of the show, that my dad had to take me out of this play and put me in this alleyway where we met up with this man with a gun that took my family from me. So Batman is definitely, when you break it down, a study in psychosis, literally.
And I was just about to bring that up because it's a podcast that I listen to. It's called the Arkham Sessions, and it's basically based off of the Batman animated series. But they have a clinical psychologist on the podcast, basically describing like some of his, if you want to put it that, attitudes, moods, psychoses, or whatever, of the reasons of why he does what he does and why he thinks he's the only one that can do it.
And I heard, aspects of the story where when he finds himself actually feeling happy, he feels guilty about it.
Yeah.
And he'll do something to take that guilt away, or just to take the happiness away from him. That he's just, when you think about that, people, who aren't into comic books and all that, if they could just sit back and think about what we just said, of how screwed up this man is in his head, they might find the character a lot more interesting. Because this guy's got serious issues. It seems like I'm right now doing the cheek and lower jaw and flesh tone. I'm going to leave some white in there for highlight. Plus, I don't want to smear it all up.
Because also at the same time, it might have been a comic book issue as well, but I'm quoting from the some of the stuff I've seen. It was Silver St. Cloud. It was a girl that he wound up dating and actually was giving up being Batman for her, but at times, while he wasn't being Batman, he was feeling guilty towards his parents and all the other stuff. I mean,
he didn't think he was doing his job.
He went to his grave. He went to their graves, begging for them to forgive him for trying to be happy with her, because he felt like he was breaking the promise of avenging their death.
Which he did 1,000,000 times over. But it's just not enough. Because in his mind, this is a never-ending battle. It's never going to stop. He's never going to... And that shows the fact that I think he has serious mental problems. And it's not like he's going to be able to stop all fucking... what happened to him from happening to everybody. There's going to be some people that's going to slip through the cracks. And ironically enough, being Batman, he caused more death than he did by not being Batman. And I mean by that is, how many times can you capture the Joker after he kills 50 fucking people in a movie theater?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And then you should kill him.
But, see, that's the thing. He, to some small extent, he feels he needs the Joker.
Because he thinks he can redeem the Joker as well.
Yes. And with the fact of he doesn't want to become him, but he's close to being him without the killing part.
Right. And I think once he thinks if he does kill somebody, that transition is done. He's gonna be Joker, or very much like the Joker. And it ain't even a matter of the world's greatest detective that Batman is supposedly is. He could care less who the Joker is. And ironically enough, the Joker doesn't want to know who Batman is because it'll ruin the fun. In his demented mind, that's the fun part. I don't know who this stranger is that's trying to stop me from killing all these people, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to kill people. He's not out there just to... This ain't Cesar Romero. This is more Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
No rhyme, no reason of why he's doing it. He just does it because he does it.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And some men want to light the fuse, then watch the world burn, and that's the Joker.
Yeah.
So I just kept the highlights and the whites to give it a more sort of face of pop out, so you can see the lines, the hash marks, to give it a more dimensional piece to it. So now I'm gonna just do the old classic Neil Adams Batman Blue. You start wherever the hell you want to start at. I just, for some reason, went straight for his nose. And again, I'm going to leave spots where the light is coming in on the left to show that this mask is not a cloth. I never understood why they always would portray Batman to be wearing a cloth on his head. If he's out there fighting, he needs to wear something that's going to be more protective than cloth.
Something closer, more or less, to a helmet.
Right, like they use in the movies. You know, you don't never see him flapping that thing back. Even they tried that with Captain America in the Avengers. He was flapping that thing back, but once he was wearing it, it was a helmet. And then they kind of like went, you know what, we ain't going to go through this whole thing of re-editing this movie. But if you watch the Avengers, you'll notice Captain America will take his mask off, peel it back like a hoodie, and it, all of a sudden, magically, it's cloth. But then he puts it on, and it's solid. Leave that same white over there where the light is coming in. Do some highlights and cover up that. But if you notice, a lot of good comic book characters, or it's just comic book characters in general, because I don't really know about a lot of other stuff, like character-wise, you know, and they're probably the same as well if they're being well done. But even James Bond, they're finally admitting that James Bond had tragedy in his life, so that's why he joined MI5 of a tragic event. But it took this last Bond movie to fucking tell you. Other than that, we just knew he was this cocksmith with an accent and a gun and a license to kill. That's all I know about James Bond, and he had cool toys. Like, they never told you why he was doing what he was doing. It was just his job. And he was good at it. He's an assassin.
Pretty much. A government assassin.
And with comic books, I think the best characters, on average, if they have to have a bit of tragedy in their lives so you can empathize, not just cheer the hero, but when he finally slips and falls, yeah, that's the best kind of hero, one that is fallible. When he finally slips and falls, you go, well, he's just like me.
Yep.
You know? Like the Hulk. For years, the Hulk was just a mild scientist who got caught up in his own hubris and made a mistake. The radiation didn't kill him, but it mutated the cells that whenever his blood pressure went up and he got angry, he turned into this big creature. And it all worked well and good. And then Peter David took that character, the writer of the Hulk at the time, and says, there's got to be more than just him getting mad. Why is his anger manifest as a giant mutant troll? And Peter David's idea was harsh, but it made sense. That Bruce Banner was so introverted as a child from being molested from his father. His father molested him and beat him.
Yep.
And he kept that anger in. And that literally, that little green monster, once the radiation and the biology and the pseudoscience kicked in with the creating of the character, that's why the Hulk raged all the time. It was living embodiment of Bruce Banner's pain and suffering at the hands of Robert Banner. And they kind of pushed that in the first Ang Lee movie, which I thought was cool, but my problem with the Ang Lee movie is, again, not enough Hulk, as academics would say. There's not enough Hulk in this movie.
Not enough Hulk in this movie called
Hulk. A lot of psychosis, a lot of psychiatric shit going on, a lot of fucking imagery. Not enough Hulk.
But then also at the same time, looking back at it and looking at it through certain things, he basically tried to make the movie a living comic book.
Exactly.
Because at times he slapped up, you had like comic book panels, you had
transitions.
You had transitions and all of that stuff. Basically looked like it was a live action motion comic.
And I liked that part. But then after a while, it looked like they got tired of doing it and they stopped for no reason at all. And my problem with the Hulk was, unlike Batman, the Hulk was always shrouded in the dark for the most part. He had a couple daylight scenes, and they were the most exciting scenes. It was the daylight scenes. Now, if I have a gray pen in here, the color this gray, a little bit of gray, we'll be done. But if I don't have a gray pen in here, motherfuckers, we're gonna be done again.
What about that close to silver looking thing then?
I'm gonna try this one.
Good enough.
That works. So, we're going old school with the gray and the blue. And I don't mean the fucking Civil War. You know, the war that the South lost that some motherfuckers don't believe. But, if you think about it, the only character I can think that didn't have tragedy in his life, or at least not overt tragedy, that wanted to be a hero. He wasn't a hero in spite of himself, or something bad happened in his life and he's trying to make good, or he hurt somebody in the past and he's trying to make good. The only character in comic books mainstream that I know of that literally was like pursued to be a hero, and that was Captain America. He was an orphan.
Yeah.
But he didn't, oh, woe is me, I'm an orphan. He dealt with it. He was an orphan. All right. But I'm going to still put my boots on and go out and get a job in the Great Depression. You know, back when his parents died of influenza and all this stuff. And only friend he had was Bucky, who was going into the army. So Steve wanted to go in the army, but Steve was a fucking 115 pound soaking wet, and he was sickly, and he couldn't be a soldier. So that being said, he's the only guy that volunteered to be a superhero. He could have died during that test. Because,
Yeah.
you know, and according to the movie,
Experimental.
it was experimental. Throw some highlights in here. Why not? Eyes look a little more 3D-ish. But yeah, he became Captain America, and he was fine with it. He didn't have nothing else to lose, because until he found out Bucky was captured, and that was the only thing close to family he ever had. Let's face it, he's the fucking 95-year-old virgin. I don't think he got laid yet. To this day. I don't know, unless them African girls in Wakanda's hooking him up. But put a bow on this one. This is pretty much it. This is my version of a quick version of Batman. Sign this motherfucker in red. That's it. Batman. My favorite Batman artist is Dave Mazzucchelli. Jim Aparo. John Byrne was a good Batman artist. Again, Michael Golden was a good Batman artist. Neil Adams. All that. Bam. That's where I got my idea of how to draw Batman. So, that's what we did on this episode. If you like it, throw some likes on there. If you want it, you can have it. Just send me in a self-addressed envelope or whatever the hell. I'll give it to you. I'm not selling this shit. This is just something we're trying out. Give me some, go into the YouTube page and give Chaos some ideas of any other quickies I can do. 'Cause these are the only quickies I'm good for anymore. So, this is episode 1. I don't know what we're going to call it.